Hey there, listeners. Welcome to Shit That Goes Under Our Heads, the podcast where we normalize conversations around mental health.
That's right. I'm Dirty Skittles, and alongside my amazing co-host, G-Rex, we are here to share stories and tips from our incredible guests.
Each episode, we deep dive into struggles and triumphs of mental health, offering practical advice and heartfelt support.
Because no one should feel alone in their journey. Join us as we break the stigma and build a community of understanding and compassion.
Tune in and let's start talking about the shit that goes on in our heads. Three, two, one. Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes On Our Heads. This is a continuation of Tuesday's episode with Beth and Noel. Enjoy.
How is it for you, Noel, being on the other side? And
yeah, it's totally different from my perspective, obviously, being her carer, essentially. I mean, when crisis and episodes happened, I would have to go from being a loving husband to a carer at a flick of a switch. So usually there were certain signs when episodes started happening, and I would start basically putting my shields up and kind of just, you'd go through a bit of a routine of trying to suicide-proof your house. So you're kind of getting rid of any medications that are hanging around in the cupboards or razor blades. Even Beth's not mentioned, but she's had a couple of episodes where it's not just been medications that she's overdosed on. She's actually consumed bleach and rat poison. So they were two very serious episodes. So yeah, from my perspective, it's just kind of making the house as safe as I can. Obviously, I would have to take responsibility for her medication and basically administer it, because it wasn't safe for her to be in charge of her own medication when she was going through episodes. And Beth kind of got good where, to start with, she was reluctant to kind of keep me in the loop with it, but then she realised that for her own safety, it was, safer that it wasn't really a responsibility that I wanted, but it kept us safe through a lot of times. Not always, even with the amount of preparations I did, she still managed to go into a shop behind my back and sneak a packet of paracetamol in and overdosed on that one time I can remember. Yeah, that was always pretty hard, and yeah, just generally trying to keep her as safe and as possible.
How are you taking care of yourself through all of this?
At the time, during episodes, I kind of went on to overdrive and kind of disassociated from the situation. And I remember being really calm and almost clinical in what I would do and basically, because it happened so many times, it would be, a kind of set procedure. Basically, for quite a few instances, I would come home and find her unconscious on the kitchen floor or something. And obviously, the first time it happened, I really panicked, freaked out. But then obviously it happened a lot when I would just get used to the process of basically securing the house, making sure there was nothing in the vicinity. If she came around, that she could hurt herself anymore, on walking the dogs in a different room, calling the ambulance, making sure that the front door was open, making sure she was comfortable, cushions underneath her. Yeah. And so basically, when the ambulance would turn up, I would obviously gather up all her medications. So they've got all her medications so they can take. So basically, the medics would know instantly what she's on. Even further down the line, we would keep a list of what medication she's on and hand that to them. So they kind of had a bit of a head start, so they knew what, depended what she'd take and what antitoxins to administer when she was in hospital and so forth.
So I have a question, and I hope this isn't like a hard one, but were there times where you just felt helpless as a caregiver because you didn't know how to help Beth?
Yeah, a lot of the time, really. Yeah, would basically be going over the same scenario over and over. I mean, there was so many episodes, it's all a blur now and it all merges into one. But yeah, it was hard to distinguish between certain episodes, but I shouldn't know my way around the ED departments of so many hospitals as I do. And you would kind of gauge how serious each episode were by the actions that the hospital staff were taking, even the ambulance, because I would basically just get everything in the ambulance and then follow the ambulance to the hospital. I remember on one occasion the ambulance having to stop at the side of a road and give her critical care at the side of the roads. So things like that, you kind of gauge the fact this is a serious one, because I think out of all the attempts, there were some that were just cry for help, but there was 3 particular times I felt I feared that I was going to lose her. One particular, she took an overdose during the night when I was fast asleep in bed, and my dog woke me up, basically just licking my face, like growling, jumping, which was totally out of character for him. So I kind of got up. I found Beth unconscious on the floor in the bathroom. So yeah, I truly believe that if it wasn't for my dog, she wouldn't have made it that time, because that was a really bad one when she got to hospital. And yeah, I was basically, the doctors wouldn't tell me anything, and I was in the waiting room on my own for a couple of hours, not knowing what was going on. Yeah, so that just, yeah.
Well, I don't know how to ask this question. This is going to sound weird, but for you, Noel, is there anything that you could remember in your life that would have prepared you for this? Was this, I guess I'm trying to understand, like, is this all new for you, right? Like you found somebody you're in love and you're going through these things. Was there any correlation to anything when you were younger that would have prepared you to kind of pick up the pieces and get in the mode of, I have to do this now?
Yes. In answer to your question, my older sister, she took an overdose when I was 14. It wasn't a serious one, nothing on the lines of what Beth had done, but that was back when we were obviously living in North Wales, and my sister got taken to a mental health ward, and it was like a proper old school asylum. And actually walking into that hospital and seeing that was extremely sort of troubling for a 14-year-old to take. So I had that. My mum and dad both kind of suffered with their own depressions and stuff. So yeah, kind of moving forward, had experienced it from other parts of my life. But when things were happening, it was just basically I don't know how I'd get through, but I would just kind of turn off my focus from one part of my brain and just focus on the here and now and just totally dissociate from everything else.
So I guess this is a question for both of you. And I'll ask Noel first and then I'll ask Beth. What do you use playing music to kind of just check out for yourself when you kind of need to like just get lost in your own head?
Yeah, obviously being a musician myself, yeah, music's always been a big part of my life, playing music and listening to music. So yeah, creating, when I get into the flow, I just lose myself for hours. Yeah, and I kind of just focused on that. So it helps clear out the cobwebs of what problems you've got in your mind at the time. Sometimes it can't always be a long-term fix, but it does help to cleanse the mind, I reckon.
So then my question for Beth is, like, what do you do to kind of cleanse your mind? You know, like you have all that shit in your head. What do you do to disassociate from that so that you have that feeling of
Peace.
happiness or joy or peace of mind? That's the word I was looking for. Thanks, Dirty Skills.
I got you.
I use a lot of mindfulness, which is kind of like the basis of DBT. I try and do it at least a couple of times a day. A lot of breathing exercises. I do have other stuff that kind of when I am feeling pretty overwhelmed, like using ice packs on your face, which again is another DBT thing. Which
Ice baths, yeah.
Ice baths as well. Yeah, I have a few tools in these days. I think it is gauging, how bad it is to what you use.
Yeah. Are you finding that you're learning to go to those tools first?
90% of the time, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Still have to give myself a kick up the ass quite often.
Listen, we all have to give ourselves a kick in the ass every now and then. Believe me.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, right? Because like you've probably have done this for years, right? Like these behaviors for years. It's not easy to learn new tools or new ways to cope or get through whatever. But I'm happy to hear that, 90% is a good percentage.
Yeah, it's taken a long time to get there, but I
Yeah.
do a lot of them automatically now as well. Again, all sort of DBT based.
That's good.
Yeah, she's in a much better place now than what she was. She's totally turned it around, and she's killing it at her current job. And I've never seen her so happy and so focused in her work. So that's having a huge influence on her personal life as well. Yeah, I'm really proud of how she's managed to turn it around. Yeah, it's not been easy, and obviously I kept a lot. I didn't tell my own family and friends what was going on at the time. Even I think it was 2 Christmases ago, you were in hospital over Christmas, and no one knew she was in hospital, so I was at home alone at Christmas on my own. But sometimes I found that's what I had to do to get through myself. Is I found it a bit with the best intentions. Sometimes friends and families people have not experienced mental health themselves, don't get it, and think people can just snap out of it like that. And obviously you can't. I know that from Beth's point of view. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it just felt it was easier for me just to plow forward and deal with it on my own terms and just be there for Beth, really.
Yeah, and I think for me, especially with my mum, I remember her asking me, "Oh, I wish I was thin. Can you give me any tips?"
What the hell?
Or putting some weight on and still being in the normal BMI and going, "Oh, you need to lose weight. You're looking fat." This is in the middle of trying to recover. Which is why I try to keep away.
Yeah, it's probably for the best. It's probably
yeah, absolutely.
No, do you see a therapist, or do you just kind of use your music as your therapy?
Yeah, obviously, I've suffered with depression myself over the years. So there has been some times where it's been hard. If Beth's having an episode and I'm going through my own depression, it's hard then. Recently, I was diagnosed with ADHD about 1.5 years ago. So that's taken a bit of coming to terms with and trying different medications and stuff like that, which didn't really work for me personally. So yeah, I've seen therapists on and off myself for a number of years. And obviously, when things have been bad with Beth's situation, I have found it useful to speak to a therapist about basically just Beth's situation. And there has been times as well that members of Beth's care team have realised that things have been difficult on myself, and they've organised things for me and obviously taken an interest and concern into my mental well-being as well. In some places, it wasn't so good in the UK, but here in Australia, they seem to understand a lot more that it's mental health, not a one-sided sword.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
I guess this is for Noel. When your family found out how bad things were for Beth, did they shy away from it, or did they engage and want to try and learn more as to see if there was anything they could do to help you or help your family? I guess I'm just trying to ask, did you have that support system from your family, or was it just the two of you being support for each other?
I did from certain members of my family and other ones, even though you tell them what was going on, they didn't really understand and they didn't really want to, I guess, get involved, really. That's kind of a part of my decision for not telling members at the time, because I just knew I can't rely on you for help. And yeah, certain men might think, like my older sister who took an overdose, I mentioned earlier, she was quite helpful, even though hasn't got a great understanding of mental health. My dad, over recent years, he's become much more supportive and understanding. I didn't have a great relationship with my dad growing up, but it's become a lot better since we've moved to Australia, actually. So I've kind of managed to rebuild a relationship with my father, and he cares a lot more, basically. So in answer to your question, yes, I'll know.
But that helps with my understanding. And Beth, I think for you, like, how refreshing is it that you have a job where you feel supported by your employer, right? No matter what. And it's a job you really, because I know what it's like. Well, for me, my story was a little different. I was taking an early retirement when all my shit went down. And I did like my job. But for me, what ended up happening is that a lot of my job responsibilities had been taken away from me because 5 months later I was going to be retiring. And so it made me kind of feel worthless. And I was, like I said, I was really good at hiding my stuff. Okay, not something to be super proud of, because it's not something that you should be prideful of. But I know how hard it was for me to come to terms with all that. Once I finally did end up calling 988, thank God for 988, I'm alive today. And I haven't looked back. Am I sad that it happened? Yes and no. But I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't had dealt with all that other shit, 2 years ago. And I love the fact that you and Noel wanted to come on the show so that so our listeners could see it from both sides, because a lot of times it's a one-sided story. And I think it's important for people to recognize what happens behind closed doors. Kudos to both of you, because it's super hard to be that vulnerable.
Yeah, it's amazing to have the opportunity to tell our story, especially as it's, has been behind closed doors.
And a long story, really, as well.
Very long story. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask my question. We'll start with you, Beth, first. If you could go back in time to a younger version of yourself and give yourself advice, what would you say to young Beth, and how old are you when you go back?
I would go back to probably when I was 13 and say that what you're feeling isn't normal and that you need to speak to somebody. And just because you're a doctor's daughter doesn't mean you have to be perfect. And yeah, things will be okay in the end.
Yeah. What about you, Noel?
I'd probably go back to 14 and just tell myself, just don't be such a dick.
Nice. Really nice. Great life advice. Don't be a dick.
I mean, it applies to so many situations, I would imagine. Okay, next question. Beth, what has been the hardest lesson you've had to learn so far in your life?
I think to accept what's happened has happened. And, what I feel horrible that I've done all this to Noel. But at the end of the day, I didn't do it on purpose. But yeah, I think, as DBT would call it, be radical acceptance of the situation. So, yeah, it is what it is.
What about you, Noel?
Oh, sorry, I was somewhere else then. Can you repeat the question?
What is the hardest lesson you've had to learn in your life so far?
That's a difficult one.
It takes you 2 hours to make a cup of tea.
Yeah, I guess with recent understanding of what I went through growing up, through my education, really, not really getting how the teachers were teaching certain things. And now since I've had the ADHD diagnosis, realizing that it wasn't really my fault. I wasn't playing up just for the hell of it. I just didn't understand what was going on in school, really. And back in my day, there wasn't really an understanding at all of ADHD or neurodivergent problems. So yeah, it's moved on a lot. And
Thank you. Does it really take you 2 hours to make a cup of tea?
I literally, if I'm
That's nodding. Sure does.
so this is how it manifests with me.
Okay, I can't wait to hear.
I'll be sitting at my desk working away, thinking, yeah, I really should get a drink of water. I'll go to the kitchen to get a glass of water. On the way, I'll think, that rubbish bin needs emptying. I'll take that out. On the way out, I'll mow the lawn. And then I'll build a shed. And then an hour or two later, I'm thinking, fuck, I'm thirsty. I better go and get a drink of water. Oh, that's what I was doing.
Literally.
Yeah. So yeah, in answer to a cup of tea, yeah, it does take that long.
That made me laugh. And
You're just as
Just
bad
made
as
me
them for getting a glass of wine or something, or getting me a...
Oh, getting you a glass of wine, yes.
I love that. All right. So now I have a couple of questions, and I'm going to start with Beth. If anxiety had a theme song, what would it be and why?
Wow.
Oh, was it the Star Wars one? The dun.
Imperial
Yeah,
Mars.
that's it, yeah.
There's a funny story about that, actually. At our wedding, instead of having the traditional wedding march after exiting, we had the Star Wars Imperial March.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And Noel, if your anxiety had a theme song, what would it be and why?
I don't know if you're aware of a song called Interstellar Overdrive by Pink Floyd.
Oh, yeah.
Probably that.
Nice.
Just a bit chaos.
Hey, chaos is good, right? As long as we're still getting shit done. All right. So my next question, and it's for Beth. Beth, what do you do today for self-love and self-care?
That's something I do struggle with, but I think the stuff with the ice baths and just mindfulness as well. I do a lot of study outside of my work, which I think I've found that I have a very busy brain, and sometimes to fill it with stuff that good stuff is a lot better.
I love that. And Noel, what do you do for self-love and self-care?
It changes a lot with my neurodivergent, really. I go through phases of being really into something. For instance, at the moment, my thing is gardening. I love gardening, and that's my escapism. Other times, I'll be into building some random shit. So it changes a lot, but general interest, obviously, music's a long-term one, walking the dogs. I don't know if you're aware what my day job is, but I run a mobile dog grooming business. So obviously I'm around dogs 24/7. So yeah, dogs are therapy for me.
Apart from when they're trying to bite you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the job. But I just want to say thank you to both of you. This was super insightful for me. And, thank God you're here, Beth. Thank you for, facing those demons and, leaning on Noel and, getting the help that you need. And Noel, thank you for being a badass. I can't, because I haven't been on the other side, I can't even imagine like some of the terror that you've gone through. And I really appreciate you both.
If someone is actually going through an episode, and they should not really feel guilty about what they're doing to someone else, because they've got to focus on themselves and getting through that moment. And it's difficult. So yeah, other people around you are going to suffer as a result of it. But I don't think anyone should feel guilty about that. If people love you, they're going to accept it and do anything for you. And that's what I do for Beth. Yeah.
Love that.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And I love how you just ended that, Noel.
That's our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Hi, all. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm G-Rex.
And I'm Dirty Skittles.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'd love to listen to your feedback.
We can't do this without you guys.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.